Hi, welcome to Garden Basics. I'm Angel. I'm going to be talking to you about the Garden of Herbal Delights. These are some of the most amazing plants. They are certainly some of the most important plants for humanity and civilization. There are manuscripts going back over 3,500 years to the Chinese that deal with mainly the medicinal qualities of herbs. The Egyptians had them. There are botanicals from hundreds of years old, but today I'm going to talk to you about how to use them culinarily and show you some of my favorites and a few things you can do. I'm going to show you how to grow them, how to use them, and how to preserve them. So first off, these are some of the easiest plants to grow, but almost all of the herbs that we know come from the Mediterranean, so that is exactly what they like. They like super sunny locations, well-drained soil, and good air circulation. With that said, the only one that can grow in a little bit of shade would be mint. And as I caution everyone, put this in containers, not in your garden. It will overtake it. But for the rest of them, they are super easy to care for. Talking about growing in containers, most people get these super cute little containers. For a general rule of thumb, you want your containers to be no less than 1/3 of the typical size of a plant. Whereas you will say, okay, I'm going to grow something like sage and put it in this cute little pot, right? Here's sage, here's the pot. This is certainly not what you want to do. My sage plant is 4 feet by 4 feet wide. It is not something that you want to put in a pot. Other ones you can grow outside. They are pest-free. In fact, a lot of these plants you can use as anti-pesticides to grow in your garden to keep the insects away. Inside, it's a whole different thing. They need really good air circulation, a lot of good light, and most people don't quite have those conditions. So if you are growing herbs inside, please check on them because they may get whitefly and other things because of bad air circulation. So with that said, I'm going to talk a little bit about how to use them. There are so many herbs, and what you get in the grocery store is been in nitrates. They've been encased in plastic for weeks. It's just so much easier to grow your own. And most people at this point, what they love is basil, which is an interesting plant. It was known to repel the bites of basilica, and that's why churches had them all around to repel the snake bites, and that's where you go basilica for the church. They are opposites. What you want to do is definitely pinch them back to make a bushier plant, and they're great. We'll talk about preserving these a little later. Other ones are a little more tender. This is a bay tree, a sweet laurel, and it's phenomenal. It is nothing like its dried counterpart in the grocery store. But I do warn you, I had mine in a 4-inch pot, and I put it in a bigger pot, and I put it in a bigger pot, and then I put it in a bigger pot, and then I put it in the ground. Mine was 2 stories tall when I left Seattle. So they may look diminutive, but they might not necessarily be that. Let's just go around with some of these. Dill, used in potato salad, used for pickling. You can use the leaves and the herbs, put them in salmon, fantastic to grow. This is what you call a tender herb. Herbs are generally classified into 2 categories. You have hard herbs such as the bay laurel, the sage, the thyme. They're much more woodier structure. They'll come back year after year. Some are perennial like dill or fennel that will come back repeatedly. And some are tender like basil. You can only have them for a season. Chives, I use these more than anything else. And the part I like best about chives is that they blossom, beautiful pink chives. And you take their blossoms and crumble them over pasta. You put them in salads. They're gorgeous. This is marjoram. It is a cousin to oregano, and actually it's probably the most used in Mediterranean cuisine. That's why you see it in a lot of lamb. There's an ancient marjoram called za'atar that they use in flatbreads that's fantastic. Thyme, I probably use this more than any other plant on the planet. It's great to dry, etc., and used in all sorts of dishes, savory and sweet. Sorrel. Now, a lot of you, this is perennial. It actually comes back year after year. And a lot of you may not be familiar with this, but it tastes like a lemony spinach. Not lemony snicket, but lemony spinach. And you put it in salads, you put it in sandwiches, and it makes a gorgeous cream sauce for salmon and that sort of stuff. Sage, I love this guy. I have one of these. Like I said, it's 4x4. And what do you do with this much sage? I mean, it's a great plant, but there's just way too much and it's very pungent. And I'm going to show you, I've got a little bit of olive oil going here. And you take dried sage, pick them off, and then you just fry them until they turn a little bit golden brown. And they're kind of like kale chips, but with a much better flavor. They can be put on top of salad dressings or pasta. And it's a great way to get your plant healthy, get them to have new leaves. See the color on that? That's what you want. Take them out, put a little salt on them, and hey, Shazam, you're good to go. Which takes me to, how are you going to preserve these? They're fantastic during the growing season. There are different ways to do them. Sort of group them into more dried leaves and more herbal leaves. Things like bay leaf dries easily. Bay leaf, thyme, oregano. And what I suggest you do is to use something like this, which is Reemay. It is porous, and you will hang the herbs upside down. You'll essentially group them, put them with rubber band, hang them in a warm, dry place, not a cool, dry place, but a warm, dry place with good air circulation, and put a little bit of Reemay around them so they don't get dust or insects or that sort of stuff on them, and they can easily dry. You can also dry them in the oven, and other ways to do them are like with basil. Make them into pesto, put it in your freezer in ice cube trays, and you can use them all year long. You can also microwave a lot of them. The more tender plants don't do well with microwaving. There's too much water in the leaves. But go to your manufacturer. All microwaves have different power levels, so you're going to need to experiment on how to do that. A couple of things I want to tell you about using herbs also is people forget the most important thing in the kitchen, which is twine. And you don't have to pluck off all the leaves of your herbs. Essentially get twine, bundle them up, put them in your stocks or stews, leave a little bit hanging out of the pot, put this in, and it's great. So you don't have to use all the time to do those. The other thing these are good for is as a brush for grilling. So you'll dip it into the oil and then brush your chicken or your meat or whatever, your vegetables with sage, and it's fantastic. That and thyme works great. My other favorite things to do with preserving is with rosemary. Get some beautiful kosher salt, take the leaves off, mash them up with a little bit of lemon peel and rosemary salt. Put them in the oven like at 100 degrees for an hour and just use that to sprinkle on. Speaking of which, by now, those sage leaves that we did, this oil has a beautiful sage flavoring to it. Save that. Put it on all of your tofu, meats, whatever. It's really a lovely thing to keep and have. The other thing you can do with herbs, especially with the softer ones, mash up some garlic. So, you take garlic cloves, you mince them with some kosher salt, and then you mash them with the side blade of your knife. Put that in with butter, mash it all up, roll it in a log with plastic wrap, throw it in the freezer. It's called maitre d' butter. You can put it on anything. It's phenomenal. The other thing that I suggest is garden spot tea. This is lemon verbena, one of my favorite ones to do. I love to use it in a lemon pound cake, and I'll have that recipe online. But you take the leaves of this, you take the leaves of mint, you bruise them in a glass or etc. with some stevia, which is a natural sweetener, so it doesn't add any calories. But you bruise it up, and then you pour hot water on it, steep it for an hour or two, put it on ice, and it's phenomenal. It's just a great thing. So I'll have the recipe for garden spot tea on the website for you as well. But do please come in and chat with us. I love cooking. I've got over 1,000 cookbooks. I love talking to you guys about what you use herbs with, and we have some interesting things, but there is nothing like fresh herbs for your garden. These you just can't go to the store and buy. But anyway, it's been lovely talking to you, and I hope you come in and see me. Thanks. Let's make more snacks.